Vendors are literally the backbone of your wedding day event. And so, of course, naturally, it's pretty important that when you're interviewing them, you're asking the right questions and making sure you're finding the right match for you, for your budget, for your overall style and vibe, and for your wedding day. Because let me tell you, good vendors will make your event epic. And bad vendors, well, they will also make it epic, but in the wrong direction. Well, hello, lovely human. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jamie. I'm your online wedding planner. My guess is you realize you got to figure out how to plan this wedding somehow, and you stumbled on this channel, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's video is going to be all about interviewing vendors and making sure we're getting the correct information out of them to make sure you're making educated choices for your wedding day. Now, today's video is not going to be giving you the direct interview questions you should be asking your vendors. I have an entire section, an entire lesson in the master plan dedicated to this. If you don't know what the master plan is, it's my online platform where I teach you how to plan your wedding for a fraction of the cost of what I charge my in-person clients, because we wedding planners are expensive. And that's why I created the master plan, so everyone can have access to a wedding planner. So if you want to know all of the questions you should be asking your vendors and the answers for them, come join us over in the master plan. It is subscription based, so you can stay for as little or as long as you need to. Get that information and make sure you're asking the right questions. But for today's video, there are basically 5 general concepts that we need to be covering when it comes to hiring vendors. And those can be asked in a myriad of ways, hence the interview templates that we keep over in the master plan. Now, these questions can be asked either in an interview or may be answered somewhere in the proposal or the contract or even on their website. So you may not even need to ask these questions out loud, but they are the answers that you should be looking for when you're searching for vendors. The first question, how much time do we get from you? Now, this varies with every single vendor, right? But the overall idea of the question still stands. Photography, how many hours will you be photographing photographing us on our wedding day? Is an engagement shoot included? How many hours do we have access to you, to your time, to your camera? The same can be said for a coordinator. How many hours do we have you? For a florist, the time question isn't necessarily how much time you're going to have them on your wedding day. It might look a little bit more like how much time do you need to set up on a wedding day? How many appointments or meetings do we have together? How many of your hours am I getting? Do you provide a mock-up? Do you spend your time doing a mock-up? How many hours are you giving me if we enter into this contract together? The point of this is not to nickel and dime their minutes, right? That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to provide clear expectations for what you can get out of this relationship. When it comes to catering, how much time do you get with the caterer? Do you get to sample your actual menu? Are you going to a tasting? Are you going for a more unique route like a food truck? Are you allowed to have meetings with them? How much of their time can you be getting? And again, these are all structured individually per vendor in the master plan, so they will be changed for you so you can ask the right questions as they're listed. But generally speaking, with every single vendor, how much of your time do you get? And or how much time do you need to do your job? Let's use the florist. For example, what time do you usually show up to start your install or your installation? Now, for most vendors, they're typically there about 2 hours before your ceremony starts. That's the general rule of thumb for when they're getting started. So anything outside of that would kind of be not a red flag, but it would be something you'll need to be aware of in case you have to warn your venue that your florist typically needs 3 to 4 hours for an installation. Of course, this all varies on like the arrangements, and we're kind of getting to the weeds with this example in general, but you can see how this question slightly changes as your relationship progresses. When you're first interviewing them, how much time do I get with you? How much time are we doing this together, right? And then how much time do you need to do your job on our wedding day? We can also tweak this for the photographer specifically. How much time do you need for a first look? But this is moving away from the interview process. But the idea still holds. The second style of question is how much do we have a say and or can give direction or need to give direction? This is a really important question to ask, because you definitely don't want to be signing up for a photographer who needs like a complete list of photography locations if you are getting married in a place that you've never been to before. That will require too much effort from your part to make this relationship work, right? To go driving around and try to find all these spots that potentially could be good to a photographer's eye. They are asking for too much direction and too much of your input. In a situation like this, you're probably going to want to go with a photographer that already knows the area or is willing to go ahead of you and scout out locations. There's a situation where you don't want to have too much say, where you don't want to be overextending yourself when the vendor can do that as a part of their job description instead. The DJ is a great example for this one specifically. How much music do you need to give them? Are they expecting you to put together a full playlist, like 150 songs of all the ones that you want played? That's a lot of work, especially if you just want to be hiring someone to handle that for you. And this is why asking this kind of stuff in the interview is very important, because you don't want to find this out a month before your wedding when your DJ is like, hey, I need 150 songs from you. And you're like, what? That is not No, I can't work under this pressure. A good playlist is curated and it takes time. You can't just throw songs on a Spotify playlist or on Apple Music and just hope for the best. That's not how this goes. You would need to spend some time on that. So by asking these styles of questions in the interview, it lets you know how much work you are going to have to do to help them to do their job. Now, don't mistake this. We're not doing their job for them. It's just, how do we make this relationship work? What do you need from me to make this relationship work? How much of my time do you need? So we've already asked how much of their time do you get. Now you're asking how much of my time do you need? This is kind of a fantastic way of looking at it because those who want to be more invested are obviously not going to select the vendors that do a bunch of stuff for them. Although I would caution you to not automatically check a vendor off the list simply because they do a lot of things for you, because when push comes to shove and you're getting down to the wire, you're actually going to probably prefer those vendors over the ones that have a laundry list of things or even a handful of things that they need for you to do, especially in the last 6 to 8 weeks before you get married. That's when everyone starts to have a lot of expectations from you. So getting those clarified earlier. How much of my time will you need along this journey? How much say do I get to have? How much direction do I get to have? Another fantastic example for this would be something like the baker. Amy, my cousin, who owns Twin Treats, and they're actually relocating to Nashville, which is super cool if you're in the Nashville area and you want the best baker of all time. Y'all are so lucky that she is heading your direction. It's fantastic. She actually specializes in dessert tables. So if someone was to come to her and ask for a 4-tier cake, she would say no. That is not a direction she takes her business. So that is a line where she goes, that's not what we do. That's not our style. That's not our expertise. We prefer the bite-sized desserts and a full-size dessert table. We found that that is the best niche for what we do. Another fantastic example would be something like catering. Obviously, if you want Mexican food, you're not going to go to an Italian restaurant, right? You can't push them in that direction. You don't get that much of a say out of it. But perhaps if you go to your local Mexican restaurant and want them to cater, you might be able to make a couple of adjustments to the menu to make it exactly what you and your fiance want on your wedding day. Or conversely, they might say, nope, you can pick from this menu and that's all you get. The third question concept is how do you price things? In my opinion, I think it's really important to understand how pricing works in case something changes. So you're not always beholden to each and every vendor coming back with different quotes. You can kind of understand how their pricing works. Do they price based per hour? Do they price per guest? Like for bartending, do they have a flat fee to rent the bar and then hourly per bartender? Or do they charge $5 per guest? Or an amalgamation of all of those fees. Photographers will typically charge per hour, but it's likely not going to be the thing where you can trim off 15 minutes and save a couple of bucks. It's more likely going to be if you add on an extra hour or remove an extra hour. That's where you might see some of those expenses shifting. This could also include an engagement shoot. If you remove the engagement shoot, does that make the photography package more financially feasible for you? Although I would caution you to not just remove it just because you want to make things cheaper. I think engagement shoots, little pearl nugget aside, I think engagement shoots are really important because it gives you an opportunity to get to know your photographer in a way that you will not have an opportunity to do so until your wedding day. I really don't think you want the first time you're in front of their camera to be on your wedding day, if at all possible. That is why it's included. One, because engagement shoots are fun and cute, and it gives you great photos to put on your website, and it's just fantastic to document this time in your lives, right? But two, it also helps you to get to know them. Your photographer gets to know you, your quirks, your posing, how comfortable you feel in front of the camera, and that way we're not trying it for the first time on your wedding day. Enough of my aside. Catering, for example, if they charge per type of hors d'oeuvre, you could potentially save money by cutting out one of the hors d'oeuvre options. If they charge per person, then it helps you to understand how much editing you should be doing to your guest list, right? If you don't understand their payment structure, it's going to be very difficult to make educated decisions when we're choosing vendors. And that's the kicker here, is you want to be making educated decisions. You absolutely do not want to be picking a vendor simply because their bottom line looks good. Right? You want to understand how their pricing works, how much is expected of you, and how much you actually get out of them. Because while a $2,500 photographer might look great, if you only get them on your wedding day for 6 hours and there's no engagement shoot included, now we're having a different conversation. But you won't know unless you know the right questions to ask. Question concept number 4, how many people come with you? Like, how big is your team? How big is your crew? The reason that I like to ask this question is sometimes parking is limited. If you are in a city, or if you're in a beach town, or heck, if you're just in a place that has a small parking lot. We've run into issues like this on several occasions where we weren't anticipating a 15-person crew to show up from the catering service, all driving different vehicles, and we were in a beachside town that had literally no parking close to the venue, and it got a little bit chaotic. I think that was like the 3rd or 4th wedding that I worked when I went, oh, I need to be asking these questions. Like, I can't just leave this to chance. I have to figure out how many people are on this team. But not only for parking, this also helps you to understand the fullness of their package. So does your photographer work with a second shooter? You're going to want them to work with a second shooter. In my opinion, that is worth every single penny. I would rather see you shave an hour off your photography package and make sure you have a second shooter than not have a second shooter. I've been doing this for 8 years, guys, almost a decade. And I can tell you with full assurity, I have never seen a couple regret having a second shooter. I think it's worth every single penny. If you're working with a planner or a coordinator, how many people will be with you the day of? Which lends very nicely to how much setup can your team handle? What is your responsibility for setup and teardown? Obviously, if it's one singular person, they can't do as much as 3 people can do. Obviously, if you're working with a full service catering company, they're likely going to have servers, a chef or 2, but they might not be staffed to do a plated meal. Maybe they'll just do buffet style and they'll serve it for you. Or maybe they don't plan on having a team large enough to do that, and so the buffet will instead be self-serve. Is the team going to be large enough to be able to bus the tables afterwards? You're going to need to know that information because bussing the tables is something that people always forget. I know everyone's like, oh, it's fine. My family members and friends will clean up. Yeah, not guaranteed. Okay, let me tell you the amount of weddings that I've been to where family members and friends just automatically start picking up without being asked. And that's because they were asked beforehand. Literally every single time when people are like, they'll handle it. No, they won't. Respectfully, no, they won't. You have to let them know that you need help with the teardown or help with the trash. And even then, you need a ringleader to be telling them what to do when that is happening. Okay, I digress. You need to know how many people are going to be on this team so you can expect what your wedding day will look like based on the size of their team and the services that they can offer with that many people. And last but most certainly not least, the question concept number 5 is, how can you prove that you're worth it? Right? Don't say that question though. That would be very rude, okay? What we want to see here is we want to see reviews. We want to see their websites. We want to see their Instagram, like where can I stalk you online? But again, don't phrase it like that. We all do it, okay? We all stalk people online. Except for me, I never do that. But you want to know the correct, handles to be searching on Instagram. So you're not stalking just randomly, but stalking with intention. Right? Where do they hold their reviews? Google, not Wedding Wire, on their own website, Facebook. Where are these? Can I take a look at them? Now, I would tread gently with the whole review situation unless you see a bad one, and then just, obviously pay attention to that. I don't want you to be signing up with someone who has a bunch of bad reviews, right? But when it comes to reviews in general, as a vendor, when I tell you that it is so difficult to get reviews from people, it's so hard. It's so hard because, their wedding day's over and not everyone is the review leaving type. So if you are the review leaving type, segue, I'm going to go ahead and link a place where you can leave me a review right here because that helps the internet know that I may or may not know what I'm talking about, which is super helpful. And then we get to share this with other people who may be planning their wedding and they're super lost. And we can say, hey, other people thought I was not so bad at this. If you'd like to come over here, I can help you. Okay. And then there's also this, if you'd like to leave a video review, I watch all of them. And I don't think there's been a single one that I haven't watched where I haven't cried. That was a double negative, but I think you got the point. So reviews are hard to acquire. Hence my desperate plea to the interwebs. If you feel like leaving me one, there you go. I'll also leave them in the description box down below in case you feel so called to do that after you finish watching this video. Some people will go as far to say, can I speak with past clients? That has happened to me once. One time did a potential client say, hey, can I talk to people that have worked with you before? And I was like, I don't know if I can give away that information. If you want to be that bold with a vendor, you totally can. Like that's, you can ask. It doesn't necessarily hurt in this situation to ask that question. However, be prepared for a vendor to be like, I'm not giving out private client information. There's reviews that you can go look at, just in case. But fortune favors the bold. I don't know if that works here, but it is a saying. What you're looking for when you're looking at these reviews, obviously we'd love to see 5 stars. If we see 4, it's understandable. If you see a negative review, it could be that this is just one singular disgruntled client, right? Maybe we need to pour some grace on this one and ask some questions. Hey, you got a pretty bad review on there. Can we talk about that? That takes a bold person to ask that question. But if you're seriously considering working with them, ask it. Please ask them. Or 2, it could actually be a genuinely bad review. Little slight story time, because I know y'all love when this happens. There was a venue that was like a private estate that was used for a venue that had a pretty bad review. And I was like, that's surprising. Just one. You know, the whole slew of the rest of them were great. Absolutely fantastic. And so we took a chance on it. It involved the venue owner / homeowner coming out in a bathrobe and watering while people were getting ready. It was strange. Fast forward to the wedding day, and let's just say we also experienced some radically strange behavior. So, and that was on me for not really pushing on that one to be like, what is this? And they're like, oh, that's just one person who was mad. So I'm not entirely sure what the point of that story was, but bad reviews might exist for a reason. Okay, so as a brief synopsis to wrap all of this up, the 5 concept questions that you should be asking. Again, if you would like a detailed list of questions you need to ask every single vendor that is specified for each vendor, please come join us in the master plan. There's a whole module dedicated to finding the right vendors. I don't want you to be like what I had with my wedding day, and I literally, one of my vendors all these years later, and I think about the experience I had with this vendor, and I am still disheartened and I'm still frustrated by it because I didn't know these questions and I didn't know these rules or these guidelines, and that's why I'm sharing this video with you today, so you don't have to go through what I went through with this particular vendor. Any hoodles, synopsis. 1, how much time do we get together? How much time do you need to do your job? How much time do I have access to you? Time, okay? 2, how much say or direction do I have or do I have to give, right? Are you just like, can you just like handle things? Or do you need a lot of direction from me? Or like, is this just plug and play? Or do I have to come up with a 150 song playlist? Because again, that takes time. Good music, a good playlist takes time. 3, how do you price your services so you can kind of do the mental math to figure out like, is this deal actually good? Is it not that good? Should I keep looking around, do some price comparison? Or if I make adjustments, what could that potentially cost me instead of just waiting for quotes to come back and forth and back and forth? You can kind of do some of that math yourself. 4, how many bodies are you bringing with you? You know, how big is this team? What can I expect from your company on our wedding day? Another great aside to that is like, how many people am I going to be dealing with, right? Am I going to be dealing just with you? Are you going to be my wedding planner? Or is someone else going to be running my wedding day? What does this look like? And concept question number 5 is, how can you prove that you're worth it? Again, don't say that out loud, right? But where is your social proof? Where is your Instagram? Where is your Facebook? Where are your reviews? Can I see albums? Can I, if you are so bold, can I talk to people that you've worked with in the past? So that's all we have for this week's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helps you on your journey to finding the right vendors for your wedding day, because I can tell you, when you find the right ones, your day feels effortless, and you can really and truly let go and let them do their jobs because you have found the right fit for your big day, and it is such a stress reliever. So be sure to be asking the right questions and finding the right vendors so you don't end up like I am, you know, long years later, still mad at one vendor. If you like this video, jump on down there, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. I'm here to help you plan easy and stress less, okay? Because you deserve a stress-free wedding day. And until next time, bye guys!